Our text from John's Gospel says that Jesus goes up to Jerusalem to celebrate an undesignated Jewish festival. But any Jewish festival is a celebration of how God has moved to be close to us. It is a holy day to commemorate how God has acted to save people. And on this day, to celebrate how God has acted to save people, Jesus acts to save another person by offering to heal him. This encounter with Jesus happens by a pool of water named Bethesda near the Sheep's Gate in Jerusalem. The Bethesda pool has a miraculous tradition associated with it. It is said that when the waters of the pool become disturbed on their own, it is because an angel has dipped his wings into the water. And for an instant, a little bit of heaven remains in the water. Then the person who gets into the water after the water has been disturbed will receive healing. So there were many people with many different ailments and disabilities gathered around the pool, hoping to receive a miraculous healing. Now, Jesus does not come to the pool to heal everyone there, but rather he is focused on this one man. This man has been ill for 38 years. Now, a generation in the Bible is usually considered 40 years. So this man has been ill and lying there for a lifetime. He was literally at the end of his life. Perhaps Jesus approaches him because he knew that the man had been there a long time. The biblical text is kind of unclear. But Jesus approaches him and asks the disabled man, "Do you want to be made well?" Well, throughout the Gospels, Jesus has been approached over and over again by people who have most earnestly desired to be healed. They have wanted to be healed of their disability, their illness, their blindness, or their demons. People have gone to great lengths to seek out Jesus or to call out Jesus to get noticed, and broken social conventions so that they may be healed. But here, Jesus initiates the conversation and the action. Jesus comes to the disabled man by Bethesda pool and asks, "Do you want to be made well?" Well, instead of answering with a resounding yes, as others have, this man responds by saying, "Well, sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, and while I'm making my way, someone else steps down ahead of me." Kind of a strange response. But let us give this man the benefit of the doubt and excuse him by first assuming that he did not know who was asking him the question. Maybe the disabled man just thought that this was some stranger who was asking him, "Do you want to be made well?" was actually criticizing him for being there at the pool so long. Maybe the disabled man interpreted what Jesus was saying to be something like, "Well, why haven't you been healed yet? You've been lying around here for a long time. Get in the water. Come on, get cured. Get on your way." So, the man makes an excuse. "Well, sir, I can't move fast enough to get into the water because there are people less disabled than I am who get there quicker." Maybe this poor fellow has a legitimate reason for being there so long. But then when you think about it, why didn't this man position himself closer to the pool so that he could get to the water before anyone else? Now, there's something here that just doesn't add up. Yet it sounds absurd that this man would not want to be made well. This man has been lying by this pool for 38 years. Of course, he wants to be made well. Who wouldn't want to be made well? Well, actually, there are lots of people who do not want to be made well. I've come across people who have been addicted to drugs and alcohol, and even when some of them have claimed that they want to be made well, the truth is that they don't want to be made well. The benefits of the drugs or the alcohol is too much for them to give up. They may even make an attempt to go clean, but eventually they wind up back using again. But then I have also seen people who were addicted and truly wanted to get over their addiction. They sincerely wanted to give up the drugs or alcohol or whatever else it was, but they just did not know how to do it. Still, the one thing I know in regards to addiction is that someone has to truly want to be helped in order to be healed. Wellness is to a large degree up to us because we need to want to be well. And we need to want things to change. We need to want to be changed. So maybe what we might think is a stupid question coming from Jesus, do you want to be made well? Well, maybe it's not so stupid after all. Maybe this was the most important question to ask this disabled man. And the man responds to Jesus, no, I don't want to be made well. I don't want to be healed. I'm comfortable with my life as it is. I have been doing this too long to have myself change or have my circumstances change, so just leave me alone. Maybe the answer the disabled man gave was not a sincere statement of his frustration at not being healed, but rather it was a whine of helplessness expressing his desire to remain helpless. Is this man so far from people we know? Is it really so far from us? We know the dangers of drugs and alcohol, for example. We have seen the education campaigns and the dangers of drugs and alcohol for years, some of us for most of our lives. And every child in the United States has been told about the evils of drugs and alcohol, yet millions are addicted. Sometimes we think the problem is that we just do not have enough education, that we need more information, but it's not the whole solution. Many people will respond to education and avoid addiction, and many will not. Many of us know that we should eat food that is good for us, but we keep eating those things that are unhealthy. We know that we should exercise more, but we don't. Being well is more than knowing. It's more than education. The real problem is one of the will. Do we really want to be made well? We have to decide that we want to be made well before we can be well. Many know that they should want to be healthy, so they say they want to be made well, but they lie even to themselves about what they want. Perhaps they do not want to be healthy, or they want to be healthy, but only if it comes without cost, comes without effort. I want to be made well, but I don't want to have to work for it. I don't want to have to change for it. I want to be comfortable. Many of us find comfort in keeping our old hang-ups and our own neuroses. We would rather live with the devil we know instead of taking the chance to get rid of the devil we know for a peace that we have not known. Maybe those hang-ups or devils that we know are old habits. And if we got rid of those habits, we just wouldn't know who we are. Old habits, whether they are good or whether they're bad, have defined us for a good part of our lives. They give us an identity and also give us some security. And that is one strong reason why it is so difficult to change our habits. If I do not do drugs or do not drink anymore, well, who am I? I have to make new friends. I have to create new routines. If I am not crabby or grouchy, people close to me will not know how to relate to me. They will be suspicious of me. They may even avoid me. There are a lot of incentives to keep things the way they are, even when they are not healthy ways. The only times when we change our ways is when the rewards are really greater than the risks or the current path is heading toward imminent destruction. Those are the only times that people truly want to change their circumstances or themselves. Now, I imagine this man beside the pool of Bethesda had grown accustomed to his situation, even though it was uncomfortable. It was not as uncomfortable as changing his life. Yes, he was disabled, but at least he knew what to expect, and he was somehow making a living. He had managed to live for 38 years being paralyzed by this pool. Well, what would happen to him if he was made well? Well, he would have to leave the company of these other disabled people whom he had come to know as friends. He could no longer live off of charity. He would have to get up and he'd have to go to work. After 38 years, well, he might not know how to work. So being healed did not seem to be such a good option. Being made well seemed like it would be too much risk. It'd be too much work. So I imagine that the disabled man did not want Jesus to make him well. Many people are like that. Many churches are like that. They know what they need to do in order to stop declining and start growing, but they do not do it because the members are comfortable with the way things are. The experts on church growth say that one big mistake is that members seek to make themselves comfortable and expect new people to change to be like them. To grow a church, the members have to find out what those outside the church need and want, and to give it to them. In the 1950s, a church could just sit there and it was accepted and expected that if people came, well, you could take them in, you could reject them, whichever. There's plenty more people coming. But now to do that policy is suicide. If a congregation wishes to be vital and grow it must attract people to come to church. Jesus asks, do you want to be made well? Well, then you have to reach out to bring people in. And you have to change to meet their needs instead of doing what makes you comfortable. It is a challenge that many churches are unwilling to accept. Churches need to find out what makes them special, what makes them different from other churches, and promote that uniqueness. What is it about us that makes us attractive to people outside the church? What do we have to offer people that other places and churches are not offering? In order for a church to be made well, the members must see themselves as hosts, not as guests who come to check out the place and the people. We're not guests in this church, we're the hosts who provide hospitality. We not only welcome people to come here, but we extend an invitation for people outside the church to come here. And when people do come, well, we can't just be tolerant of them. We must become more than just accepting. We have to become embracing. Most important of all, though, is a congregation becomes healthy by doing what God wants that congregation to do. A healthy congregation takes its faith seriously, but they do not take themselves seriously. Having the members grow spiritually is the most important way to grow the church in healthy functioning and growth in members and numbers. Notice that in other healing stories about Jesus, not only do the people seeking healing seek out Jesus for him to heal them, but often when Jesus does heal them, he says something like, "Go forth, your faith has made you well. Go on your way." Well, this is not the story of the disabled man beside the pool of Bethesda. He does not seek out Jesus, and Jesus never says to him, "Your faith has made you well." No, in fact, the man is made well without his input, without his consent, without him doing a thing to help himself. Jesus just heals him. Nothing the man says or does is a precondition for his healing. The man does not have the right attitude, and he never helps himself. Jesus helps him. The man receives an undeserved and unearned gift from God. Jesus says that God causes the sun to shine on the righteous and the unrighteous alike. And on this day, the sun rose on this man who was certainly unrighteous. This story is about the amazing grace of God that shines upon people in need, despite their lack of faith. God gives a gift to any and all, even the undeserving. And the grace of God is what we should take comfort in, not our own goodness, not our own righteousness, not our faith or our traditions. Our hope, our life is in the grace of God. And we must ask the question that Jesus asked. We've got to ask ourselves, to our faith community, do you want to be made well? Well, then we need to listen to God and accept people with an all-embracing love, including ourselves. The good news for us is that God accepts us and embraces us even though we do not measure up to God's standards. God gives us the gift of grace. It is a gift which we need to explore its richness, and gratefully embrace the love of God for us and gratefully receive those who God accepts and loves too. If we want to be made well to the depths of our souls, then we must start with accepting God's grace for us and all others. Our lives are a gift of God's grace. The wellness or righteousness of our souls is a gift of God's grace. The church is a gift of God's grace. So let us treat them all as a precious gift given to us out of love, which we did not and do not deserve. Then we may begin to appreciate what we have and realize that these things are not to be hoarded as our rewards, but as gifts for us to share for the glory of God.